Hello and welcome to the Feral Future Podcast. I'm Eric.
Hi there, I'm Carrie Joy.
It is episode 10.
Wow,
Happy 10 episodes.
10
It's
episodes.
kind of a milestone, right?
It is.
It's also kind of a special podcast as you like to kind of follow the lunar and solar calendars. We're recording this just before the solstice.
Yes, as we
Yeah.
normally do. I mean,
Yeah.
with our 10 episodes, it's kind of like we do them seasonally
Yeah.
around those times.
Equinox and solstice, they're always kind of major times of the year to sort of like stop and look at where we've gone, where we've been and where we're going,
Yeah,
what's happening and what's changing
yes.
as, the world unfolds around us and within us.
I actually wrote, I put out an equinox and solstice letter. If you're on our newsletter community, which I hope you join, I write an equinox and solstice letter 4 times a year, and how much I've been really following, the cyclical cycle. Really, when I moved to California back in 2015, I really got into it and kind of getting away from traditional quarters and New Year's, and how when you set yourself up, these are like considered power days.
Mhm.
Like the veil is thin, your aura is big. Of course, here in the Northern Hemisphere, we have the most amount of light, the longest day, and it's just a really powerful day to set, you set yourself up, and like you said, take stock about where you've been and where you're going. And I always like to say, and feel it in your body. Like our body really kind of is the thing. Like you can, talk about all these like vision boards and manifestations and things like that, but if you don't actually feel it in your body, it's all just going to remain in your head as an idea, as a concept. So yeah, and in honor of this, we're actually going to be talk about embodied. We're going to be in a body of water tomorrow. We'll be in a lake.
Well, at a lake.
At a lake, but in
Optional
a lake,
to be in the lake if we want to
we're
be. Yeah.
absolutely swimming. Of course we are. Um, with a beautiful community and group, and a new friend of ours from a group called Palma Collective. And our friend Meredith, has organized a gorgeous solstice celebration, and we'll be partaking um, as a vendor and support. She called, we'll have like a little market area of all of our products, but we'll be able to enjoy the grounds. And it's a very sacred, very sacred, fertile grounds and gorgeous waters. And
It's a really special place. The lake itself is fed from an underground spring and has no tributaries in or out. So it's like a really kind of a special place of this sacred water coming up from deep down. And we're already out kind of in the middle of nowhere as it is. So it's a very pristine place, and what a place to kind of detox from
yeah,
the first half of the year and kind of prepare for the second half.
absolutely. And yeah, it was also in my letter just about like to be in nature as much as possible. And of course, solstice is not just that one day. It kind of is, the days and weeks kind of leading up to it. But that day specifically is the portal. And to be in nature, to be around water if possible, to be with friends and family, eating good food, dancing under the stars. And we're going to have this like gorgeous like first quarter moon. So it should be a really beautiful experience that we're lucky to be a part of.
Yeah, and there's all kinds of alignments as well. I was just out looking at the stars with my boys the other day, and
Yeah.
really clearly could see Jupiter, Venus, and Mercury, and yeah, it's all a lot of stuff going on. It's really
Yeah, and I was listening to one of our favorite, well, my favorite astrologers, Pam Gregory, was really talking about how this solstice is such a portal for the next few months, but it's really about like where your frequency lies, right? So if your frequency is like looking at, and this will go into this topic that want to talk about. But if you're looking at all the negativity in the world and the chaos and the pain and the trauma, you're going to actually amplify more and more and more of that. But if you can look at just the amount of new things being birthed and the creativity and so many more alignments and people coming together and awakening, and just like the portal of love and feeling all of that, you can really transcend into these next few months and make this second part of the year magnificent and phenomenal. But it's really about where you place your attention and where you place your energy. So it feels really good for us. We're already in the sacred energy.
Yep.
I feel I'm so glad we decided to do our podcast today. We miss you guys. And yeah, just special times.
Yeah, some other news, I guess. We have some new collaborations. We're connecting up with your former partnership with Biofield Tuning. Stay tuned for a future episode with their founder, Eileen McCusick. She's an amazing woman, healer, um, visionary. I mean, there's so many things you could call her
So
that
many
it's
things.
hard to do it
Yeah.
justice. But
Yeah.
yeah, she's a great person, and so we both knew about her before we met, and it was actually kind of an interesting thing that Carrie and I met at an event that we were hosting at my place, and she had mentioned that she worked for Biofield Tuning, and my roommate at the time and I both had some of their products, and it was like, oh, we have that, and we like pulled it right out, and so we were already on the same page. And normally she has to kind of explain what it even is that they do, and it gets a little woo for some people, but we were just like, yeah, we know about that, right on, So it's kind of a fun origin story for us and how interconnected the whole Eileen part of it
Yeah.
is. So.
Yeah, and there's a lot of there's just some really wild synchronicities with Eileen, um, that I'm sure we'll share a lot more in that
Mm-hmm.
podcast with her. But it really was so special. I was a part of the organization for 5 years. I was her business advisor, and I discovered her actually on the winter solstice of 2019. I listened to my first group session where I tuned in, and it really, I mean, I've been into energy work for a long time, but it was, I think Eileen's work was the first body of, I don't even know, like body of work, energy understanding where I really could, feel into like the collective field. Um, and if you ever experience something with Eileen, you'll no longer doubt how interconnected we all are.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think that's what she does so geniusly. Like you can listen to a session that she's done, when she first started doing it 20, 30 years ago, and you can receive the same amount of benefits as if you were there with her live, whether in person or not. And so, um, yeah, it's really special. And I was her business advisor from across the country, and some of the people who I'm like so close with, like sister like energy, I've actually never even met live, which is quite wild. Eileen and I have become close, and we've been in the same community, and we've been to festivals together, and so we've seen each other a bunch, and done things together personally and professionally. But it is just amazing how so much of it was like just done through the ether, and I really, really understood the ether also from that whole
Mm-hmm.
experience. And there's some products that were created with like, it was like, there's, she always told me like there's no original idea, it's all kind of connected. And so some of the things that Eric and I have been creating, there's an influence of her in there, just from her own life experiences that kind of
Mm-hmm.
shaped and shifted some of this, our
Sure.
experiences. So
Yeah, we're all a culmination of all of our experiences. So everybody
yeah,
that we've ever interacted with has some part in everything that we create moving
yeah,
forward. But it is interesting how some really stand out more than others, and those are the ones that can really. Well, I suppose it can be positive or negative too, right? Like the most negative interactions we have with people also shape how we live the rest of our lives.
yeah,
But to have people that are such a positive influence, and then to be able to continue creating and working with them in a creative and collaborative way is really special.
yeah, yeah. This is really special, and it feels really exciting. And the support and love that they have shown towards us,
Mm-hmm.
we're small but mighty, and they're like a much bigger established organization with a lot of, Eileen's written a few books, and she's got, she's PhD, and just a brilliant, brilliant mind. And so it's really beautiful to have
Mm-hmm.
her love and support and the care of everyone on their team, looking out for us because there's so much alignment. So,
Right.
yeah, we'll be sharing that with you sometime over the summer. Eileen will be a guest on our podcast, and a
Yeah,
lot more
working
about that
working out all the details now, but yeah,
collaboration. Yeah.
yeah. So kind of rolling into the main topic. Well, I guess is there anything else solstice related that you wanted to cover? I mean, I know that you're kind of getting into some new fashion that
Oh,
you've.
yes. Well, I'll just do it quickly because I know we've been talking about solstice for a bit, but I always, well, another thing that's about Feral Future is just, it's not just food, we have such a fine appreciation for fabrics and textiles and natural
Mm-hmm.
fabrics and textiles
And craftsmanship
and
that goes into it, right?
craftsmanship, of course, um, and the small batch quality of it all, and made here in the U.S. and things like that. And so before, you know, it was really hard to find that. Mass fashion, fast fashion was such a big thing. I've been a huge like vintage shopper, antique shopper, for 20 years or so. Like I really, well, all my friends were in like big fashion house brands. I was like the girl like helping these startups and like health and wellness, and also had to become really creative with finances and resources, and was really passionate about just using the recycled element of clothing, and loving just beautiful cottons and linens and wools, and I've been doing that for a really long time. I also knew that the health benefits of those fabrics were and the frequency of them were really high. But I recently discovered this beautiful brand, and I think it's in Charleston, um, Vincent James, and the designer who I just like adore, Heather Sullivan. She is doing like everything. It's like if I could have like manifested a wardrobe, it's like basically what she
Mm-hmm.
has put together. So I
Another
always
another aligned soul, another
another
frequency.
aligned soul.
Yeah.
Oh, and like, oh my God. And the amount of synergies, like we've never even met, also, the amount of synergies of things that we have both done that are not like cool or mainstream by any means is just wild. So, Heather, if you see this, I so appreciate you. And this dress, like, I love to get myself something new on the solstice. It's always in white or off white or beige, just to really honor, the light. And so, yeah, this is my new Vincent James dress, and it's like regenerative cotton and a little bit of merino wool, and it's just like I put it on my body, it just feels so amazing and so good. So, yeah, just so much kudos to anyone who is really doing that type of work and is
Mm-hmm.
trying to make the world better and healthier and more beautiful and elegant. And yeah, it just feels like when like such a yes when you put something
Mm-hmm.
like this on. So I'm loving this.
Yeah.
And I know you wanted to talk about a friend of yours from afar as well through the ether, who is a big influence.
Yeah, it's interesting. So one of the major influencers of me kind of getting into this whole feral idea and came from the world of rewilding. His name's Daniel Vitalis. We've talked about him in previous episodes. But he had a podcast called Rewild Yourself Podcast, maybe 10 years ago. I don't think he's doing it much anymore. He's actually got a TV show. It's called Wild Fed, where he's out in his home state of Maine, mostly doing foraging and hunting, and like really taking the ancestral type of life to the next level, like really going all after it. We're a little more domesticated than that, but very appreciative of that, and understanding and appreciating like the kinds of things that he does. But he was a major influence on us, and just recently, Carrie did a post about collagen on Instagram, and out of nowhere they happened to see it and comment, like it, and start following us. And so it was a real kind of a neat moment where somebody that you've looked up to, but not that he was by any means like inaccessible or anything like that. He's not a huge character in that world compared to some others. I have no doubt that it wouldn't be that hard to get into contact with him. But yeah, to be found by someone like that and to get a comment and a like and a follow and all those things, and yeah, it was really kind of a special thing. So maybe he'll be another guest in the short term if we can
Of
get something
course, we would
going.
love
So
him to be a guest.
yeah.
No, we love and appreciate his wisdom and
Mm-hmm.
knowledge and determination, and being a pioneer, and really being such an inspiration to you.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, really the idea of like the energetics of food. It's not just the vitamins, minerals, and nutrients. It's like the actual characteristics and vitality of the food that we're eating, and then as we embody it, and it becomes part of us, and then it even expresses out of us. So
yeah,
yeah, we're like a channel for the things that we eat and the energies and the knowledge that they carry. So
yeah.
it's a
Well, what
cool
was
thing.
kind of cool also that happened this morning. So Daniel, the reason he seemed to, I made a comment because it's not just about collagen, but it's about glycine. So
Mm-hmm.
that was my post. Now, glycine is the amino acid in collagen,
Right.
and it's really incredible. And so, like, why is no one talking about glycine? And so that was my post, and he said, like, was basically like, yes, woman,
Yeah,
like,
preach. Yeah.
yeah, preach. And I was like, yeah, like, because I really am passionate about glycine. I mean, it's in our maple mallows. It's like super, it's like
Mm-hmm.
one of the reasons why I feel like we have so many incredible benefits from it is the glycine component. And the skin and the hair, nails, gut, sleep is super supportive. Well, anyway, another person that Eric and I really admire and respect, carnivore,
Yeah.
he sent out his newsletter and he basically said, why is no one talking about glycine? And I'm
Yeah.
like, here I am, like this, this woman who's like, that's not, I'm not a trendsetter, but yet I know about these things and I put them out there because I believe in them. And
Mm-hmm.
like, and then like Daniel's like, yes, and carnivore is like like basically a few weeks later is
Yeah.
saying something very similar.
Yeah, sometimes it feels like more people than we realize are seeing our stuff,
Yeah.
and when we see, we'll start stuff, and other people start talking about it as well. And it's something that I've noticed too, where I'll have an idea and I'll share something with you, and a few weeks later, some well-known or high visibility person will make that comment or start that app or something like that, and it's you know you've actually said, like, do you feel like you lost out on that or you missed out on that? And I'm like, I'm actually glad that it's just out there. Like, it's not about whether or not I get the credit for it. I'm just happy that it exists. And if I was somehow able to like put that out into the ether to make things happen, then I feel as happy as I could be as if I made it myself.
Yeah, I mean, it goes back to what we were saying with Eileen. I mean, the whole ether concept.
Yeah.
Like, you say these things, they're out there.
Yeah.
It's kind of like there's this incredible book with Elizabeth Gilbert about that idea.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you put that out there, somebody, if you don't do it, once it's said and established, like someone else is going to do that same
Yeah.
exact thing.
No, there's all kinds of stories of like corporate like patents being filed like hours apart of the same exact thing by people that never
Yeah.
met each other, and it becomes this thing of like espionage, and it's like, no, it's just out there, and like when the time is right, the idea gets presented, and those who are tapped into that idea can access it, and sort of the one who takes action first gets to take benefit of it. Takes advantage of it. So yeah, I think that's true for a lot of things. Like the idea of the Akashic record, is like the true internet, and we've created this human version of it that's not nearly as good. But if you can tap into the version 1.0 that's been around theoretically forever, all the knowledge that's ever been known is out there for us if we can tap into that. So, but sort of segueing on that idea of being okay with not being or having the idea but not being the one to capitalize on it. Episode 8 we did was called Discernment in an Attention Economy, and one of the things that I said towards the end is that as there's this idea of the world stage, and I look at the things that we see on in politics and media as almost like a soap opera or like pro wrestling, where it's inflammatory on purpose to create reactions and be polarizing, so you choose a side, and then once you're on a side, then you have like then you have the other that you're arguing against, and it's us versus them, and it creates this whole dynamic. um, and it's an attachment. You basically get attached, and your identity becomes attached to these things that you've said yes to or that you believe in at the moment. And my closing statement was that you need to be sort of indifferent to it all. That's the place to be. And kind of the more I thought about it, the idea of indifference, that term didn't really land well. Like it kind of just felt off to me. And I think the right term I wanted to use was detachment. And so this episode is really, as you're watching this, you'll have seen the title, but it's defining detachment in a way that's, because indifference and detachment kind of have a similar idea. And if that's one of the issues with language is what is your, how much of it do you know, and what do you know of it, and what words get used correctly and incorrectly. And yeah, they could be in a thesaurus or something as a synonym, but are they really? And indifference is really like, I don't care either way. I'm just not going to pay attention. And that's almost like, hide your head in the sand or go live in a cave. Like, that's indifference. Like, it can go on, but it's not going to bother me because I don't have any connection to it. Detachment is being able to watch all of it, take it all in, see what's going on, and have kind of an understanding of the underlying storyline or the message or what's being done without that emotional, psychological connection to it, the identity connection that gets you trapped and caught up in the swing of things. And yeah, there's even this idea of like the pendulum of energy where something comes at you and based on your response you kind of like re-energize that pendulum and send it back out, and if you can sort of not react to it, that pendulum kind of loses its energy and it stops. And so you know you can actually stop events from moving forward by simply just looking at them and not reacting, being non-reactive. Doesn't mean you can't have feelings about it, doesn't mean you can't um, feel strongly one way or the other, but it's having the ability to look at it without just being an emotional knee-jerk reaction, putting that energy right back into the system and contributing to the very thing that you don't want to
Yeah.
have happening at all.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, when I think of indifference, I think of like there's two ways. I actually think of like as like an apathetic,
Right.
like literally like almost like a despair type
Right.
of
Don't care, don't
feeling.
bother me.
Don't care
Yeah.
at all.
Can't be bothered.
And then I also feel like the trauma drama loop, which is what they actually want us
Mm-hmm.
to be in, is like actually having a strong reaction to it,
Right.
like a really strong reaction to what's going on. And it's like keep us in that victim consciousness story.
Right.
Um, so I mean, detachment's like kind of like non duality, right? In a sense.
Yeah. Well, so a couple things came up in the last week or two that kind of connected me to that, and so um, one of my I'm recently been doing like a men's group. I was invited to a local men's group, which I'm honored to be a part of, um, and it was a really interesting first experience with it. And I stayed after and talked to the host of it, and because the idea of detachment had come up, and at one point he had sort of said that he was a little frustrated because he wasn't able to accomplish what he wanted to in the meeting, right? And one of the things that came up for me was like, well, who's the meeting for? Is it for you or is it for all of the men coming to the meeting? Because without the men, there is no group, there is no meeting, right? And so what you had hoped for, he was maybe attached to a certain outcome or coming out with something, as opposed to did we all benefit, from it? Um, and maybe there's a time for both, right? Like if he can come into a meeting saying like I really want to focus on this, let's not try to keep everything because I think this is really important based on some things, and then kind of if somebody starts going off track, kind of pull them back in. But other times definitely have it being more open and less connected to any particular result, because and a lot of times that's when the really magical stuff happens, when there is no result. Like you go over to your friend's house for a barbecue, and you have the best time, and the only focus was we're going to go hang out with our friends and have a good time and have a barbecue. Like it wasn't like we're going to do this event at 7 and then this is 7:30 and this is 7. Like nobody's going to have fun if you try to structure it in that way. Maybe they will, but having that free form, just let whatever happens, um, can oftentimes become so much better than a real strict controlled idea. And that's another thing that comes up with attachment, is the idea of control, trying to control the outcome as opposed to letting the things that will automatically happen. It's like if you had an apple tree, for example, and you had the idea of you wanted it to grow exactly 37 apples and be 6 feet 8 inches tall and have a width of 4 feet, and you know, good luck trying to make that happen. And your efforts to make that happen are probably going to fall far short. You're not going to be able to get all of these things to happen. Whereas if you just sort of like support the tree and let it grow in whatever way it needs to, trim here, trim there, just to kind of let it reach its fullest form, um, that's going to have a much better outcome. And you're not going to be stressed and frustrated. The tree isn't going to feel that pressure that was forced upon it to like be all these things that it wasn't supposed to do, because it's just a tree. It's just following whatever, there is no intention other than to grow and to reproduce, right? Yeah, so that kind of detachment, to just let things be what they are and let them be what they will be. um, yeah, it really kind of connected even to some deep, like spiritual, religious type stories, like even the story of Jesus of, dying on the cross, and forgive them, they don't know what they're doing, and you know, not asking for help, or just like, no, this is fine. Like he was the epitome of detachment at the end, and um, not trying to hide and escape and like and walking forward and taking, like, all of those kinds of things are detachment. He knows what's going to happen, but he's not invested in the outcome. It's like he's doing the thing because it has to be done, not because he was looking for a certain thing to
Yeah.
happen. And in doing so, he's one of the most, famous, well-known, revered people that has ever existed, and for thousands of years has been on the lips of the majority of the humans that have existed. So there's detachment for you in its real form. And so, what is the Jesus story really telling us? Is it about following all these rules? Is it about flipping the tables or whatever, or is it just do the right thing because it's the right thing to do the work because the work needs to be done, without this thing of like, I'm going to become the most famous person to have ever existed. Like, I don't think he ever came to here to do that. That was never the goal, was to have this fame, and
Right.
to have these people use his name in their religion, and et cetera, et cetera. He was just doing the right things for the right reasons, and stuck to that, and didn't get tied up into all the nonsense, the drama and theatrics of it all.
Yeah.
And in fact, in doing, he became the thing that everybody looked at, and the drama, trauma, and theatrics were came out of, right? But he himself didn't do that. So that disruption, that disruptive force of like, what if we were all living in that way? What would life ultimately be like?
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely. And also, like, I think kind of connected to Jesus, it's like literally living in the moment, right?
right,
So if you're in the moment, then you can't really have a perceived agenda or
right,
expectation, because all of that is getting out of the moment. So you could have like an idea, or let's say for your friend who's organizing these meetings, like it'd be really great to have these things happen, but then also then get out of the way
right,
for have something like drop in that's completely like divinely inspired that you never could have
exactly,
thought or created
exactly.
had it been any other way. I'm practicing this. I mean, living with you, having this business, all the things like it's what I'm finding is, and again it goes back to like the even like feeling in the body and the manifestations and things like that, is that you're over there, you're like in the future versus actually being present. So then you're always looking for like the journey's over there, you're net, like we want these things, like Eric and I want land, we have all these ideas for Pharaoh's future, there's all these, there's so many things that we want and desire, and not from like a needy egoic place, just beautiful dreams, visions, things like that. But what I'm finding is if you're not in the present moment, then you're kind of continuously on that hamster wheel looking for that next thing versus like being here with, yeah, wanting and having these, but they're not like the control. I guess the control leaves, the expectations leave, and then you allow something greater than you
Mm-hmm.
to actually come in that you never would have thought of. You never would have even like because your brain can't commute that stuff. It's like a higher
Mm-hmm.
wisdom. It's your higher self, or God or the universe or something like that, kind of dropping in to help move you along in a way that you, as a small the small self, could never have even
Right.
begun to like realize.
Well, yeah, and that's something that I've been saying for a while. It's like, if your goal is to make $10 million and you live your life with $10 million as this magic number, the universe will give you all the opportunities to do that. But what if you got out of the way and let the universe give you $100 trillion, right? Like, I mean, that's the kind of potential that could be out there for all of us. But we're so locked into these structures and systems, and attached to outcomes, and the stories we tell ourselves about ourselves, what other people have told us about who we are and what we should be like, and what will people think if I don't do that? And it's really, yeah, it's the more you see it, and the more you look at it, the sillier it becomes. But that doesn't make it any easier to do it
Well, it's a
yourself.
constant practice.
Yeah, it really is.
It's a constant practice. Like even my morning meditations have just been like pulling all my energy back to me, like me and whatever is above, right? Like I have all these ideas and things I want to do, and there's the to-do list, and there's this, and there's taking care of your responsibilities, business, animals, whatever it may
Mm.
be, kids. Um, and then I kind of just find myself just coming back to like present moment, breathing, my body, and like an energy that can kind of come in,
Yeah.
because that's all we have. And anytime that we're kind of in the past or in the future, we're also just like wasting all the current energy of the moment. And so, but it's not easy because it's like a massive program that we are trying to dismantle every single day because we have been told to push and try and
Mm-hmm.
fix and force and all the other stuff that we do continuously. And it's the more we, it's like really like the ultimate surrender, like what you said, Jesus was like, that there was nothing left to do in that moment but to like forgive everyone that was
Mm-hmm.
harming him. You know, like he couldn't push anymore. Like, and it's just like a beautiful practice to kind of
Yeah.
continuously do.
Well, and it's interesting too, because like there's the book, the autobiography of a yogi, which talks about, I'm not gonna try to say his name, I don't off the top of my head, but uh,
Ananamanda.
yeah, something like that, Yogananda something. He basically recounts his life growing up in India and wanting to take a spiritual path and being sort of through the system that they use, getting assigned a guru, um, and sort of the challenges that a young egoic mind person human has, and then sort of learning learning through the teachings of the master, how to find that detachment, and as they become more and more aware of it, like really understanding and realizing, and the sort of like humility they start to learn, that they have of like how great the power is that's out there and how strong it is. And the idea of like bowing down to somebody in a Western world is like seen as weak and as like, you know who are you to bow down to somebody? And it's not, this is not that type of energy of like, I'm a king and I rule over you. This is like, I see your greatness and I'm overwhelmed, and like to be taught by somebody that has what you've achieved is such an honor that like, it's such a different type of thing. But the idea of bowing down to somebody in our culture is like not acceptable, and again, it's an attachment thing. It's an attachment to a story when, in fact, the people that are doing that in this way, they are detaching, and they end up receiving those gifts, and becoming the masters themselves. And it's interesting how you have to go through that process. Like you wouldn't, perhaps if somebody was born into that sort of society, I can't imagine that somebody could be a guru and a yoga. Maybe that's what like the Dalai Lama is. Maybe that's something that they do. They practice that from the very beginning and can tap into that, and or never lose it, because a lot of people think we're born with it, but we lose it through the struggles of life. Hence, feral, domesticated, returning to the wild. We're trying to find back that state that we were originally supposed to be in. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
But it's interesting that the Jesus story is kind of more of a Western idea, where autobiography of a yogi is more of an Eastern philosophy. But they're very Christian in the way that they talk about the Jesus story and the Bible, and they put their take on it. And it's actually really interesting, their perspective, using their Eastern philosophy teachings applied to the Bible versus our Western philosophy teachings,
Yeah.
and the way that they kind of acknowledge, like, that's how we think about it here in the West, but on their side, they really have a different perspective on it. And if you look at Jesus' teachings, they are very Eastern teachings, very karmic type of ideas. So yeah, just so that, yeah, so we've got basically Hindu masters, yogi masters that can teleport and resurrect and be in multiple places at the same time, and not eat for theoretically weeks, months, or years. Can see into the future, can basically have all of these amazing skills, but they're not wielding them as if they're there's no ego there that's trying to take advantage of it. And it's sort of, that's how you get it, by not having that attachment to um, your own personal gain from them. It's kind of like the idea of like the ultimate president or politician would never run for office. you know the idea of an election is like somebody who would never step up to do it themselves, because that world is so awful. But like the people actually say, no, you're the right person for this job because you're such a good person, and you would never have the ego to like put yourself out there. That's actually the best person. So anybody that's sort of wanting to be in that world really shouldn't in the first place. It's almost a precursor, a disqualifier.
Yeah.
um,
Yeah, it's a weird one because, well, first of all, Jesus was like, anything I can do, you can do as well.
yeah,
So I think that, and we've
and
all,
more.
and more. And I think that's like, and then we went into such a big phase of like the guru and following the guru, which got so distorted and
And of course, people took advantage
took
of that.
advantage of that.
Yeah.
And that there's, so to me, I'm feeling like it's almost more going back to like, it's like the end of the guru. And it's more like the idea of that we all could, ascend and what are the levitate and do all these
Mhm.
things that they said we could do. It's just that we've been, it's like going back lineages and trying to clear all that stuff and think that we don't have the power and only these special people or these gurus or
Well,
things like
and those
that.
are the attachments to those stories.
Yeah,
That can't be done because
yeah,
you've been told it can't be
yeah,
done, and you've been told that success looks like this and
yeah.
wealth looks like this, and through TV programming and like the
I do
words.
feel like there's going to be souls coming in. Like even like Eric has a son, who's just this really special soul, and he can like, he gets hits and he speaks to like things
Mhm.
through other dimensions and veils and even um, animals and people who have passed, and he's able to connect. And I feel like, and we obviously encourage that. It's an amazing, amazing skill. It's like you said, we all had it, and it was turned down. Like our parents were like, "Oh my God, don't be weird. Don't be
Yeah,
like follow, be like everyone else." But with ours, we really want them to like, increase that capacity and that capability. And I feel like souls coming in are probably going to be able to levitate and do
sure.
all these unbelievable things.
Yeah, it's sort of like the self-correcting
Yeah,
things. Like it's gotten so far that nature, because the previous episode, nature is truth. Like we're all in nature all the time, regardless of what we think we've built. It's still made of nature, in
yeah,
nature, by nature. So yeah, nature finds a way, and the pendulum is going to swing
yeah,
back. And so many of the things that have been taking humanity down the wrong path um, are going to get, overturned and swept back. And we really truly believe that. We may not be alive to see it ourselves, but we have no doubt that that's the way things are going to go, because it always finds a way. And
absolutely.
that's kind of goes into like the idea of like the yugas and the cycles over, you know, anywhere from 700 7,000 years per cycle. And are we in the downfall cycle right now? It sure feels like that. You look back into the past of the buildings and the music and the clothing and the craftsmanship. I mean, that certainly feels like there was a golden age of sorts not too long ago. And yeah, we want to find a way to get back there as soon as possible. But again,
Absolutely.
without trying to force it either.
Yeah.
Finding the right people and letting
Yeah.
things happen the way they need to do,
Yeah.
so that it can stand,
Yeah.
and it can actually do it correctly, and not try to force it and put
Absolutely.
up like a plaster and wood version of it that can't support its
Yeah.
own weight.
Yeah. I think the most important thing that every single person, soul who is awake right now, is to concentrate on themselves and to concentrate on healing themselves and doing anything that's possible to do to really gain that autonomy of themselves as a being. Because the more we have these like autonomous souls doing their gifts, the Eileen McCusick's, the Heather Sullivans, the Eric Steinkamp, but the craftsmanship, the beauty, concentrating on the things that make them glow unique, their contribution to the world. If we just have millions of people doing that, that's the stuff that's going to like make us go back to the
Yeah,
golden age and a lot quicker. Like I'd love to see the
yeah.
the fruits of our labor.
Well, and that's something I talk about. You see a student who's really great in art but has struggles in math, and what does the school do? They put them into math programs so that they can bring up their math, and they can't do as much art. So you take away the thing that makes them shine, and you force them into the hole of the thing that they don't shine. And it's not for their own good; it's for the cumulative test scores of the school and the school district for funding, and the whole thing is so distorted. Whereas, what kind of art would that student be producing had they been given that same amount of effort to fully focus on their art? And watch them, when they're ready, take on that math like it's nothing, because now
Right.
it's time for it, and there's a reason to use it, and there's a
Yeah,
tangible.
because imagine the confidence. Like they're
Yeah,
just you're so wildly confident, like in
Oh
your
yeah,
craft and your
you
art.
will have achieved a level of
Yeah,
greatness that they would never achieve
exactly.
otherwise.
Yeah,
And now with that greatness, like now they feel like they can do anything,
exactly.
as opposed to like, no, you have a problem. This is
Right.
not good. You're bad.
Exactly.
You
Yeah.
know, you're not going to be able to make it if you don't know how to, you know, do your equations and solve for x. Like it's going to
Right.
be a big problem. And
Right.
it's like it's probably not. It's probably not.
And there's calculators.
That's true. Yeah. Now, I mean, yeah, the old story of where you're going to be when you need to do this and you don't have a
Yeah.
calculator. Now we all have
Yeah.
AI in our pocket that can solve you know calculus in a
Exactly.
moment's notice. So yeah, and the other thing too is the detachment from the idea of, like you mentioned, healing, right? But the idea that you're broken. I think even the concept of healing has challenges because it indicates that there's a problem, or you're broken, or you're damaged, and that is in itself its own attachment. So,
Well, I
um,
was more referring to concentrate on you
right,
and you.
exactly. Just rephrasing that
Yeah.
idea so that it's not about you're broken and you need to fix. It's like
Exactly.
you need to get back to that true version of
Right.
yourself to fulfill whatever it is that you came
Exactly.
here to do,
Exactly.
as opposed to being attached to the stories and the themes that you are trying to achieve to show others that you've reached the goal,
Yeah.
or to trick yourself into thinking
Yeah.
that you've received something. Because you know how many tech moguls and billionaires and millionaires that like find great success in their work, you know, later on in life end up going to some meditation retreat and selling everything to live with their family, and to go back to a simple, fulfilling life. That how many yachts, how many jets, how many boats, how many supercars. Talk to anybody that's bought multiple supercars. They're like, yeah, after a while, like a Lamborghini is just another Lamborghini. It's not like, I like it. It's cool. But that sort of high that you get from having that new cool thing, when you can have everything, that wears off real quick. And you go back to the things that really matter. And usually the things that matter have already been destroyed. Their families and their marriages and their relationship with their children and their friends are all lost at that point. And then you have everything, but you ultimately have nothing. And so the idea that grow where you're planted, you know, make work on yourself before, if you want to fix the world, start by fixing yourself, and be the change that you want to see. And if you start kind of following by those rules, anything can happen. And that's and not be worried about the result. Just knowing that whatever comes out of that um, is what needs to happen.
Yeah.
So yeah,
I love that, babe.
yeah. So that sounds about it for tonight.
Yeah.
Thanks so much for joining us.
Yes,
We hope you
thank
have
you.
a wonderful solstice, and see you again soon. Hopefully before the vernal
Absolutely
equinox.
before we have, yeah. I said this before, a lot has been happening. We will be back at least once a month, if not twice a month. That is our goal. It's important.
But it's okay if we don't.
It's obviously okay. There's no expectations. I will get out of the way, but if we do what's necessary, or if we're in that flow, something divine will come in, and we'll be here more often.
Yeah, you won't be able to stop us. We'll be doing 3 a week if that happens.
Exactly.
All right. So thanks so much for joining us. And as you know how we close this out,
Yes, the
the
future is
future, future's
Pharaoh.
Pharaoh.
Appreciate you.